There's been much discussion in this committee about the issue of regulatory abuse, the growing administrative state, and the role ATF plays in this undermining of our representative government. This has been discussed through the pistol brace rule, among others, but I want to make it clear that this is not a new issue and that the ATF and the entirety of the administrative state continues to engage in illegal lawmaking. Director Dettelbach, are you familiar with the case Cargill versus Garland?
I do know that case. I believe that's a pending case in the Fifth Circuit.
Yes, it's a case that was decided in January of this year, and it relates to challenging ATF's bump stock rule. Now, you have repeatedly stated that the ATF only carries out the laws as passed by Congress, but that isn't true. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, in fact, ruled against the ATF. This was initiated by a gun owner in response to the ATF promulgating a regulation to interpret federal law, specifically the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act, to define firearm accessories as machine guns, even though Congress had not done so. The regulation was pursued in direct contrast to a position that the ATF held for over a decade, and that's in fact similar to the pistol brace, where the ATF actually issued letters to owners of bump stocks and pistol braces saying that they were legal accessories. Yet the ATF eventually changed their mind, but not because Congress issued any new law. It was a new interpretation on your part. In fact, the court in the Cargill case found that that there had been bills that had been introduced regarding bump stocks, but before they could be considered in earnest, the ATF went forward with this rule, quote, short-circuiting the legislative process.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upends the ATF's 80% receiver and frame rule. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like my channel, like my content, what I do here, you can support me with the link. Everything is appreciated. And a quick public service announcement. For those of you in the state of Connecticut who are going to get your pistol permit, I suggest you do it quickly because the state is changed or has changed its training requirements. Not necessarily for the good of the actual training, but to make it harder for you, the average citizen, to go get the permit. So if you plan on getting your permit, you have to make steps quickly. That'd be July 2024 is the cutoff date. But let's talk about this. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has struck down and vacated the ATF's frame and receiver rule. Okay, if you understand the 80% receiver rule, where basically people would buy them to make their own firearms, which is not illegal under the Constitution. The ATF, in all its glory, decided to create a rule where they banned the use of these frames and receivers by the average person. Now, of course, legislation is left up to Congress. So the ATF abused this authority and has done so more than once, as we saw recently, the arm brace rule. Now, the Fifth Circuit is using the same language here. They're not saying that the ATF can't necessarily do some things, but they're saying the ATF cannot make law. And that's exactly what they did when they banned the use of what we basically call 80% frames and receivers. And this is Vanderstock versus Garland. And I'm going to come into here. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal vacates ATF frames and receiver rule. On the heels of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosive Pistol Brace Rule 2021R-08F being struck down by a federal court in Texas, its other significant rule change has been knocked down. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has now vacated the two main provisions of the ATF frame and receiver rule. Now, the FPC brought the case, Vanderstock versus Garland, as you already heard, challenging certain aspects of the rule that changed the factor criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. In addition to FPC, the plaintiffs include Jennifer Vanderstock, Michael Arden, Tactical Machining, Blackhawk Manufacturing, and so forth and so on. I don't need to go through all that because we really want to hear what they're up to here. But a panel of 3 judges from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals felt that the ATF was trying to usurp the powers of Congress by making de facto laws through the federal rulemaking process, and it's exactly what they did. Redefining what constitutes a firearm takes the power away from the legislative branch. The ATF is there to enforce the laws and not make laws. The Fifth Circuit Court clearly believed that the ATF was trying to act as lawmakers. It has long been said correctly that the law is an expression of legislative will. As such, the best evidence of the legislature's intent is the carefully chosen words placed purposefully into the text of a statute by our duly elected representatives. Critically, then, lawmaking power, the ability to transform policy into real-world obligations, lies solely with the legislative branch, where an executive agency engages in what is, for all intents and purposes, lawmaking. The legislature is deprived of its primary function under our Constitution, and our citizens are robbed of their right to fair representation in government. This is especially true when the executive rule turned law criminalizes conduct without the say of the people who are subject to its penalty, Circuit Judge Kurt D. Engelhardt wrote. And there it is. Okay? Now, I don't need to get too much further into that. This is groundbreaking news. It's basically putting the ATF in check and actually puts Biden in check because they're doing Biden's bidding. This is putting them in check as to not abuse the executive agencies to then create law, because that's exactly what they are doing. The arm brace rule, the frame and receiver rule, they are creating law, which is solely in the hands of Congress. And that has been the argument from day one. Okay? And once again, it's huge news. Now, of course, this of course opens up the gate for people to buy frames and receivers again. But for now, because I'm sure they're going to appeal this to the next level. But this is great news. Once again, we're seeing positive outcome after positive outcome. I'm not going to say this is small. I'm not going to go there. But what it's doing is everything is setting a foundation for the next set of lawsuits that are going to come forward. Of course, we're all waiting with bated breath for the assault weapon ban cases to make it to the Supreme Court, because once again, it's going to set the stage to overturn all of them, and they know this. And as I said before, and with my little conspiracy theory, they are deliberately slow walking these through the court systems in the hope that the Supreme Court can be flipped ideologically to a more anti-gun position. But once again, another huge step for us. And we're going to have to just watch as we go forward. And what the Fifth Circuit has done, now the government tried to claim that they had to make this rule because of emerging technology such as 3D printers and so forth and so on. But the Fifth Circuit said, whoa, let's back up. We got to look at this from the plain text of the Constitution, definitions of frames and receivers, and what in the Gun Control Act of 1968 actually says. So let's see what happens going forward. Once again, another win, but it's setting the tone for everything else that's going up the court system. And that's what I'm most excited about. I'm absolutely excited about that. So they know right now if they drag this to the Supreme Court, they're going to lose, probably get the 5-4, but they're going to lose, and they know it. They know this. So that's what they're worried about. Now, here in Connecticut, that does not, ruling has no effect on us because we have a law that says that we can't own unfinished frames and receivers. We basically can't even buy finished frames and receivers. So this doesn't affect us at this point in time. But once again, it's like I said, it's setting a tone for everything else coming up the line. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I will see you on the next one. Peace.